Sermon for Creation Tide 3, Humanity Sunday. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them, human beings that you care for them? These words from Psalm 8 were written by David as a shepherd boy, probably sitting out under the stars with his sheep. I can really identify with these sentiments, having just returned from the Alps, where I was amazed by the clarity of the night sky, seeing the whole of the Milky Way, it seemed, spread out almost that I could touch it. Awesome. In that sort of landscape surrounded by high peaks, you feel your smallness. It's a familiar feeling, for I have been in that particular Swiss valley 34 years ago when I was just 21. And the thing which impacted me most on my return was the amount by which the valley glacier has retreated. It's now probably a mile from where it was in 1987. And I pondered to myself, how short is a human lifespan compared to the forces which have shaped our planet and its life, and how disproportionate and damaging is our effect on the fragile balance of our planet. This morning's reading from Genesis chapter 1, God's commission to humanity to steward the earth, has been blamed by many environmentalists for the attitude many people have taken to the care of our planet. They note its language of domination. Let me read to you. Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. This is a bit like blaming religion for all the wars and violence in the world. But even so, subduing and ruling over creation is still quite militaristic language, which deserves a bit of unpacking and explaining. So what about the word subdue? In the beginning of the account of creation in Genesis 1, it tells us there was darkness and chaos, but the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. There remains in creation an element of this primeval chaos, an unpredictable and destructive force or darkness, which the Jews characterized by the name Leviathan, the sea monster. This stood for destructive and unpredictable events, like floods, fires, plagues, earthquakes, pandemics. The list goes on. These are the things that humanity is to subdue with the authority given by God. This is what Jesus is pictured as doing when he calms the storm, the freak storm on the Lake of Galilee, and goes across to the country of the Gerasenes to liberate, to heal the demoniac who lives among the tombs on the far shore, to deliver him from his legion of demons. In both cases, the calming of the storm and the healing of the demoniac, Jesus restores peace and order. There are many ways in which humanity still carries out this God-given role. Engineers building flood defences or earthquake-proof housing, emergency teams bringing relief, those who engineered the COVID vaccine and those who administered it, restoring normality, order, relief from suffering. So much for the word subdue. How about ruling over the fish, the birds, all of creation? This is where the second reading today picks up Jesus' own redefinition of the word to rule. His disciples only knew the ruling of the religious authorities who burdened people with endless rules, or indeed the political authorities, the Romans, who used brutality and force to keep peace and order. But Jesus demonstrated a new style of ruling. Listen to how he describes it. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Ruling, according to Jesus, involves serving the best interests of others, as Jesus demonstrated when he washed his disciples' feet. So what would it look like to rule the earth and its creatures in this way? This is where I recommend you go home and read the next part of Genesis and the second account of creation in our Bibles, which is far more personal and relational. Listen to this little bit. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. And the Lord God commanded the man, "You are free to eat from any tree of the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." In this account, the man is commanded to work it and take care of it, but within the limits that God has given. God does not leave humans alone then as some absentee landlord. He walks and talks with Adam in the cool of the evening. God and Adam are co-creators. Any gardener understands this. We do our bit, and there is an amazing life force within nature which causes growth and flowering with water and light. God does his bit. Human flourishing is intimately tied up with the flourishing of the whole of creation, and especially the green plants on our planet. Benedict, when he founded his order of monks, gave equal value to time spent in prayer, in study, and in practical labour in the garden. Gardening is a very healing and therapeutic activity. Working and taking care of creation, we help to bring forth order and beauty as God intended it. Sadly, if we read on to chapters 3 and 4 of Genesis, we find the more ugly aspects of human nature emerging. Adam and Eve ignore or push the limits and try to play God themselves. And then Cain murders Abel. He wants to compete and not cooperate with his brother. This early in the Bible, we see the human traits which can lead to environmental destruction. So what can you and I do to fulfill God's original commission to humanity, to care for creation, to make a positive difference in our lifetimes? Can I suggest 4 things? Firstly, garden and care for your own corner of creation. Encourage your children and grandchildren to do the same. Take part in community initiatives to green our environments, to plant trees. Secondly, recycle our waste, repair and reuse things as far as possible. There are limits to global resources. Thirdly, reduce our consumption and our carbon footprint. Live simply, that others may simply live. And finally, we are our neighbour's keeper. So let's cooperate globally and not compete. This really is not only a local but a global challenge, and we need to pray for the leaders of nations meeting in Glasgow at the end of October for the UN Climate Conference. Sometimes it is when we are faced with a crisis, like the crisis of global warming, and the forces of chaos emerge, which we're seeing at the moment with increases in forest fires and flash flooding, that humanity works best together to bring about recreation and recovery under the guidance of God's Spirit. So as we prepare for the COP26 conference, can I encourage you to use the prayer which you will find on your screen? Loving Creator, at this moment in Earth's history, when humanity must take account of Earth's destiny, give to those leaders who gather in Glasgow a sense of urgency, a perception of necessity, and the wisdom and will to secure the health and well-being of the world at whatever cost to wealth, political advantage or prestige. And give to us all a vision of a world restored to full health that is worthy of all those yet to be born, and worth all the work, sacrifice and commitment which is ours to offer. Amen.